Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here for another fan debate. This time we've invited Gareth Walker on to the Premier League chat show. Have a little chat about Liverpool, have a look at how they're getting on versus Leeds this season, who's going to have the better season. We're going to get into it all. If you're watching along live, get your comments in, smash a like on the video and get subscribed to the channel. Gaz, how are we doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. It's going to be weird talking about Liverpool. Me being an unashamed two-team wanker and all that. I've still got the stuff in the background. But it'll be interesting talking about them. And like I say, I'm a bit of an unashamed two-team wanker. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. No, well, this is it. At least, it's funny because obviously you've got one team that obviously Liverpool massively successful. You get all your cups and your Premier League titles and your trips to Wembley. You've got Bradford City, where maybe not quite on that par, but at least doing well at the minute. Bradford City obviously stayed up last year and made a good fist of nearly getting in the playoffs and going for it.
Yeah, obviously it was a massive season for City. Did really, really well to finish fourth. It's interesting to see if they can do that again, this year, because I think they might have been found out a little bit towards the end of last season, but see how it goes. I just hope that if we don't do as well as last year, the pressure doesn't sort of mount on Alexander, because we all know what City fan base can be like, don't we? So I hope they don't turn on him if we're not doing quite as well as last year. Fingers crossed we won't, and we'll remember where we were a few years ago. But yeah, you sell like you get both sides of it. But the thing is, when they both lose, mate, I get double the depression as well. That's quite a lot last year. Like I said, I lost a lot. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is it. This is where. Yeah. Well, this is where we'll start. I mean, Arne Slot gone. Won the title in his first season, second season, a bit of a write-off, and Liverpool chose to get rid of him. And the new man, Andoni Iraola, has come in. Very high reputation. His Bournemouth team were absolutely excellent, really exciting team. Had a really good season again. Now, in terms of that change, what do you make of that, Gaz? Was it the right decision to move on from Slot, do you think?
I think it probably was, Browney, just because he'd lost a lot of the fan base. And we do talk about how the Liverpool fans don't turn easily. They are very patient and they stick with the team and the manager. But he'd lost supporters, and that's not just online either. We all know how fans turn online, and it's a lot quicker than sort of your match-going fans. But he'd lost supporters in the ground. Anfield was not a nice place to be towards the end of last season. And it's very, very difficult, because obviously he did so well to win that title in his first season, and you can't take that away from him. People are saying, oh, well, he did it off the back of Klopp, and maybe that is partly right, but he still had that job to do, and he still got them over the line and won what? They'd only won one title in 30 odd years before that. So to get them over the line and get a second one when we sort of, at my childhood, watching Man United win title after title after title, and Liverpool struggling to finish in the top 5 or 6 was awful. So for him to win the league, you can't take that away from him. But just the fact that he'd lost the supporters was a big thing. And I think once they've gone to that extent in the ground, I mean, it with any club, it at Leeds. When they've gone in the ground, it's very, very difficult to get them back, isn't it? You need a massive, massive thing to happen to get them back. And there were all sorts of little rumours going around about how, the style of play had changed. The sort of story is that he didn't change a lot in that first season. He sort of things carried on very much as they'd been under Klopp. Would carry on as we are, and we won't change. And then obviously things were changed in the summer. The style of play was changed. The squad was changed. Probably there was too much change to the squad. And it sort of didn't work out. And he's probably not the only person to take the blame for that, because obviously the sporting director made those changes to the squad and the signings were brought in, and they've not necessarily worked out as they would. So for him to be taking the rap is harsh. I believe that Richard Hughes is going to go as well, the sporting director, but he's going to go after the summer transfer window. He's rumoured to be going to Saudi. Michael Edwards, who was the head of football operations, has already gone. So all three of them are going. So it's not just Slot, they're all going. But there were rumours about training intensity and him giving them far too many days off, and the players didn't like it. They didn't understand why they weren't training at the intensity that they had been under Klopp, and they were getting all these days off, and Slot were off in Ibiza all the time on holiday, and it just seemed a bit unprofessional. And fans, once they got that in their head and the results had turned, I don't think it were coming back. So I think he had to go, mate, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because, Slot coming into Liverpool now, Iraola, both managers were linked with Leeds at one time in the recent history as well. It's quite funny. But Iraola coming on, what are your first impressions of how he's done since arriving?
Well, it's a big step up, isn't it? We know it's a big step up from Bournemouth to Liverpool. And I think possibly the fans were not hoping for, but there were rumours that they might go for Alonso, and obviously they decided not to do that. Alonso, from what I can gather, Alonso were waiting out for the Liverpool job and only sort of took the Chelsea job when Liverpool said, like, we're not going to take you. And I think a lot of that was partly because he'd turned them down previously. Obviously when he was at Leverkusen and he went to Madrid, and he could have come to Liverpool when Slot came and he chose to go to Madrid. And I don't think that there's a bit of arrogance around Hughes and Edwards sometimes, and I don't think they took that very well, and possibly that was why they didn't go for him. Also, that he plays a 3 at the back, as we know, which didn't work out for Amorim at United, so I think there were reservations there. Iraola, the style of play will go down an absolute treat with the Liverpool fans. It's more akin to what we saw under Klopp. It's very attacking, very front foot, very high press, very energetic. And he speaks very, very well. One line that got me when he took over in his first press conference was, "I want to earn the right to be one of you." Now, fans are going to lap that up, whatever club you're at, if you want to earn the right to be one of them. It's just, it's speaking to the heartstrings, isn't it? And that's something that Slot never did. Slot never really, despite his success, he never really sort of identified with the supporters, and he was always a little bit standoffish, a little bit, not arrogant, but just maybe it's the Dutch personality, I don't know. But Iraola, massive step up. And what I have noticed in pre-season, and we'll probably come on to that later on, obviously we played Leeds in pre-season. He spoke the other day, Liverpool were 2-0 up against Leeds, and Leeds won 4-2, didn't they? And the similar thing happened the other day. They played Monaco, and they were 2-0 up, and they lost 3-2. And Iraola's come out and basically said, he's basically talking about the players' fitness and intensity, and saying that we cannot sustain the level that I want for more than half an hour at the moment. And when the players' legs have gone, and when I'm bringing the subs on, the squad depth isn't there to maintain it, and that's been proven in the friendlies in the summer. So he's got a lot of work to do. If those rumours are true that Slot's training and tactics were a little bit, not unprofessional, but less intense, and that's affected the players' fitness, it's going to be a long way back to get them up to the standard that Iraola needs them to be at to play his way. And he also needs signings as well, because we know the squad is short, and I think they're starting to do that. There's rumours there'll be more before the end of the window, but it's very, very important to do that. And not, like I said, the 2-4 thing is going to be getting the fitness levels up to where they need to be, and then getting the squad depth there so that he can rotate when he needs to.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the friendlies there, kind of what I kind of picked up from watching Liverpool. I mean, they kind of stormed into a 2-0 lead over Leeds, and we couldn't get the ball, from a Leeds perspective, and you thought, could be a long game. And then second half, it kind of flipped completely. We brought some of our more experienced players on, and Liverpool were making changes. And it's really interesting that you say that they can't kind of do that Iraola classic style for more than half an hour at the minute. And I guess my concern for Liverpool, guys, is, well, there's a couple of things, actually. It's how difficult it is to bed that style in. We know that, I think it was the first 7 or 8 games, didn't get a win at Bournemouth. Also adding European football as well, guys. Now, Iraola's never managed a team in Europe before. And I saw Jamie Carragher on a podcast say that he would have liked maybe Iraola to have that step first at maybe a mid-club, a team that maybe plays in the Europa League, Europa Conference, build up that experience of managing a team that's going to be doing, midweek games and weekend games, week in, week out. He's never managed that before. Plus, the style is so intense. Also adding the issues about the squad depth. I mean, it seems like, do you expect a flurry of action in the transfer market, or are you a bit concerned that it's just not going to be ready and it could take a while for the team to get going, and then it might be too late, especially in terms of challenging for the Premier League?
Yeah, I don't expect a flurry in the transfer market. I mean, so far they've signed Munoz from, I can't remember where he's come from, one of the Spanish teams.
Villarreal or something.
Villarreal, that's right, mate. Yeah, obviously released. I think they got him from Madrid, and then Barcelona, and he's had a year there. He's done really well. He's got himself into the Spanish squad, and then Liverpool have activated a release clause and brought him in. They've got Jeremy Jacquet, who's coming as a centre half. Obviously, he's gonna. I think the idea was that he'd be an addition to Van Dijk and Konate, but Konate is gone, so he's going to be thrown in straight away. He's not played at all in pre-season because he's had a knee injury, so he's not played yet. And then they've managed to sign Araujo from Barcelona on loan recently, another defender. But that's a sticking plaster, Browney, because they've got so many injuries at the back. They've basically Van Dijk's the only fit centre half that they've got. They've been playing a young lad who's come from Austria, but he's been brought in to play in the youth team, and he can't get a work permit for next year anyway. He's got to go out on loan for a year. So he's been playing next to Van Dijk in pre-season, or when Van Dijk wasn't there, playing against another, when Van Dijk was still coming back from the World Cup, playing alongside another youth team player. So they're really, really short defensively, and I think Araujo, that's why Araujo's been brought in. When you speak about the intensity, that's exactly how I feel. That there was you check Bournemouth's sort of form across the season, and they tended to struggle in the middle part of the season, and that's when teams start playing twice a week, which is what we're talking about. So when they get, I don't know, around Christmas time or January, when you might start having to play 2 games a week, Bournemouth's form drops off. They started picking up injuries because of your muscle strains and etc. Just because of the way they're playing. So it's hard to envisage that not happening at Liverpool, especially when they're going to have European football to contend with. I am concerned about it. They need, as I said previously, they need to get those fitness levels up, and they need to get some squad depth in there. You've also got the scenario that the players that they were brought in last summer. I spoke to some Liverpool fans previously, and there was like a movement from possibly towards the style of play that Slot wanted to play, less intense, more possession-based. Your Wirtz and your Isak, big money signings. I'm not sure how they'll cope with the pressing intensity that Areola wants to play. It's not something that either of them are particularly used to. I know Newcastle would do it at times under Eddie Howe, but we know that Isak himself has had his injury issues. Wirtz has never played that way before. They're going to have to buy into it and get the fitness levels up, like I say, and then we'll see how they go. But I can definitely envisage a slow start. Maybe not in a game. Maybe first half hour will be really good and then tail off again. Maybe that could happen quite a lot. But I can see a similar start to Bournemouth, and it might just be the style of play that keeps the fans in check and keeps them on a level and sees that we're built towards something rather than panicking straight away when results might not hit the ground running.
Yeah, indeed. Let's get to some of your comments. Top Banana, welcome along, mate. Evening all Leeds away. Don't mention pre-season, lol, and tickle those likes to the lads. Paul, thanks for a lot, mate. Calgary calling. Browney, we're looking good with 3 upgrades so far, but we need a 10 and 9 and cover at keeper and left back. Liverpool under Areola might take a bit of time to adapt. Top 6, but how high? If you're watching along, please do smash a like on the video and get your comments in as well. Thanks for those comments, guys. Really appreciate that. Yeah, a couple of things as well. You mentioned about the Aruwu signing, and I'm kind of absolutely butchered that name. I've just realised I was kind of practicing how to say it before. I've absolutely just butchered it. But I thought that was a very underwhelming signing. He's got injury problems. It's a loan. I don't know what's happening with Liverpool's recruitment from an outside, obviously, and I know there's changes, but why aren't they just going? I mean, it's like, for example, Leeds have signed a defender, Tarek Mihajlovic, from another name I've just butchered, from Sassuolo in Italy. And he looks like a Champions League player. We got him for 34 million, Gaz. And I'm like, I don't know how we've got him. He's so good. I don't understand how a player like that is not on a Liverpool radar, or a player as good as that. What he's got? Why does it seem so difficult to kind of get players in? What is the hold up here?
It's a bit. You probably laugh at me for saying it, but FSG aren't ones for going out and spending big money. They never have been. The first time they've really done it was last summer, and that's the anomaly. That's why I say you laugh at me, because last summer they obviously did. They spent an absolute fortune last summer, but that is an anomaly. You remember under Klopp, Liverpool fans were always saying we need more players, we need to spend more money. They never really built from a position of strength. FSG will not go out there and sanction signings that are really expensive without recouping a lot of it through sales. I think even last summer, a lot of that money that they spent, they recouped through sales of various players. So maybe like the net spend might have been like 200 million, something like that. I don't know when they've gone and spent half. The total amount might have been 400, but they've recouped 200 back. And I think perhaps, I'm only guessing again, but perhaps based on what happened last season with that big spend and them not fulfilling what they hoped to fulfill. Have they got burnt? Have they got burnt by what's happened there? And they're thinking, no, we'll go back to what we did before. We'll be more cautious. We're not gonna spend lavish amounts. The two more things that might impact it as well are the priority. Slot said it, and Iraola said it. They want wide attacking players up front. You think about a Mane or a Salah. Salah obviously left at the end of last season. Salah's legs had gone anyway. I'd been saying that for a while. He had a stellar season the season before, but I do feel his legs had been going for a while. He's now gone. When you look at the squad, there is no Mane and Salah type player in that squad, and that is what Slot wanted, and that is what Iraola has come out and said that he wants. Now, we're going to say that they've come out and said that sort of these attacking players are priority, and I think perhaps they're being linked with Bradley Barcola. They're being linked with a few other wide attacking players, and I just wonder if they're keeping the money dry because they're the priority, and they don't know how much money they're going to have left to spend, and they want to save as much as they can because PSG are apparently playing a hard bargain with Barcola. They're talking about wanting 170 million for him, and Liverpool won't go anywhere near that. Liverpool are saying we'll give you 100. Sort of the rumours are like 120. We won't go either that. So there's a lot of negotiating going on, and I just wonder if that's the priority. They're keeping, maybe they're holding back a little bit because of that. The rumour is that even though they brought Munoz in, they still want Barcola and possibly one more up at that top end of the pitch. So they're obviously the priority. They will obviously feed into how Iraola wants to play with the high press as well. That could be a reason. And I don't know if you've seen it in the press over the last couple of weeks. There's talk about investment coming into the club. Yeah. There's talk about a consortium buying 30% of the club off FSG. Now, that consortium is quite exciting for a Liverpool fan in a way because it's got Jeffrey Bezos involved in it. It's got the former founder of Facebook involved in it. It's got the Mittal family, the steel magnates from India, involved in it. Now, these guys...
Wow.
are full of money, aren't they? So, if that was to go through, is that playing a part on how much they're wanting to spend? And the moment now, it's only 30% of the club. It's not a takeover. But when things like that are going on, it makes you just wonder, maybe they're keeping the powder dry because of that as well. So, I don't know. And then, obviously, you remember how things were under Klopp. They never threw lavish amounts of money about until last season, really. Last summer under Slot, and they backed him. But Klopp was constantly, remember him having to get Stephen Colker in on loan as a defender at one point because they just wouldn't spend any money. So this isn't unusual for FSG. This is something that's happened before.
Yeah. Michael, evening, Browney, Gaz. Evening, welcome along, Michael. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny you say about that, Gaz, because I remember there's a guy I used to work with and follow him on Twitter. And literally for years, and I mean years, under Klopp, any Liverpool social media post they did, it could be about anything, a returning player, a picture of Klopp, he would literally, in capital letters, be like, sign some players, exclamation mark, because it was like you say, why are you not, you're in a position of strength, why are you not strengthening more? Why are you not acting on that? So I kind of totally get the frustration. The Barcola deal as well, guys. I mean, they're you're trying to get a player from PSG, and you're like, they are going to absolutely rinse every penny. And I also heard Jamie Carragher talk about last year feeling like a Real Madrid summer, and spending all this money. It's like, what I don't understand is, obviously when you got Salah and Mane to an extent, it was like players not at that ridiculous level where it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. It was like, it felt like clever recruitment. It felt like you're spotting a player that could potentially get to that level, as Salah and Mane both did. I just wonder where that's kind of gone and why aren't they recruiting a little bit more like that, where it's like, okay, might not be world class now, might not be the finished product now, but can develop into it rather than chasing and spending so much money on one or two players here and there.
Yeah, and I think there was a shift in that last year when you're signing superstars like Wirtz and Isak. Klopp, I mean, let's be honest, like, regardless of what anyone said, Klopp was a genius. Klopp's an absolute genius, and he turned these players from potential into superstars. I mean, who saw what had happened with Salah at Chelsea, obviously, went out on loan into Italy with Roma and Fiorentina and rebuilt his career to an extent, but no one saw him turning into the player he did when he signed for Liverpool. Mane come from Southampton, knew he had these raw attributes, but Mane, probably one of my favourite Liverpool players of all time. I absolutely loved him more than Salah. I absolutely loved the bloke. I thought, used to hear defender, like Gary Neville used to say all the time, out of all the players I've seen, he's the one I would never, ever want to play against, because he's so quick, he's so strong, he's so good in the air, and he never, ever stops running. And yeah, I just loved him to bits. To try and replace those players is almost impossible, isn't it, when you've had the success that you had. And then we've got to remember as well that, like you say, you talk about I'm not spending, people typing things like that. That's common in Liverpool fan base. Fan base have always, they want them to spend money. They want them to strengthen from a position of strength, and they've never done that. When they won the Champions League, the only signing that they made was Adrian as a backup goalkeeper. So we don't really know the ins and outs. We don't know whether this is an FSG thing, which it probably largely is, or whether was a Klopp thing. Klopp was also very, very loyal to his players, which is obviously one of his strengths. But it meant that the turnover wasn't always perhaps what it needed to be, and we've seen players leave on free transfers, such as Wijnaldum, Emre Can, Trent Alexander-Arnold, these Canate. Now they've gone on frees because they've run the contract down. Now that might not have happened if we'd sold them on and replaced them when we could have done. But yeah, it's a difficult one, mate. You don't know. They're not going to go out. They're not going to go out and spend lavish amounts. Not after getting burnt last year, I don't think. But they do need some signings, particularly at that top end of the pitch, and it feels like they're putting all their eggs. Well, we thought they had all their eggs in the Yandy Monde basket, but it feels like they're all in the Barcola basket right now. And perhaps the other lad that's being linked from PSG, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. Is it Mbaye? Right.
Oh, yeah.
Forward. I think they quite fancy him as well. So be interesting to see whether they can get one or both of those out of PSG. I think part of that at the moment is that they're waiting for PSG to make signings themselves. They've signed Akliouche, has gone to PSG. They're rumoured to be signing the lad from Ajax and Ferran Torres from Barcelona. Now, if those deals go through, perhaps we'll see movement on the lads coming out of there that Liverpool are interested in.
Yeah. I'm fascinated to get your take on Florian Wirtz, who, watching him last season, didn't watch him week in and week out. In the Leeds game at Anfield, I thought he was dreadful. I thought he was so lightweight. You can tell technically good, but I thought such a lightweight player. And he was actually misplacing easy passes and things. I was scratching my head a little bit with him. I'm just not impressed with him and the impact he's made in the Premier League. And the fee is just so high. But I'm not sure he's ever going to get there, Gaz. I'm just not sure he's going to be able to do it. You mentioned earlier, can he do an Iriola press, for example? I just don't know about Florian Wirtz at all, Gaz. I'm really not convinced. But what do you think?
Well, if we start at the beginning, no one batted an eyelid when they paid that money for him last summer. Oh. Nobody. Everyone said, what a great signing. 100 million, totally worth that. Yeah. Going to be one of the future stars. And he struggled, let's be honest, but he won't be the first player to struggle in his first season in a new country. His confidence was shot. I agree with you, mate. You'd see him misplacing passes. Now, simple passes, and these are things that happen when a player's shot for confidence, aren't they? We all know it. We've all seen it. It's what happens. The physicality thing is the main issue, and it's, as I talked about before, can Isak and Wirtz, etc., can they play this style of play that Iriola wants? But also, Liverpool kind of went down a road last year where they went for these technical players who are good on the ball. And it feels like the Premier League moved in another direction. The Premier League went into this physical. We all know how many goals Arsenal scored from corners. Very, very physical. Arsenal play. You look at Arsenal's team when they set up, they play basically 4 centre-halves. They play a centre-half at right back, a centre-half at left back, obviously your 2 centre-halves at centre-half, and then 2 holding midfielders. It's all gone very, very physical. And like you say, mate, he's lightweight. I don't think it necessarily suits him. There's actually a comment come in, and it's a good point. About needing a defensive midfielder. Now, Liverpool fans are saying exactly that. Liverpool fans are seeing it and saying it because you need someone who's going to add a bit of steel in that midfield, who's going to protect your Wirtz, who's going to protect your Isaac, who's going to stop teams from running through the midfield because they don't have that at the moment. The problem is that I only see them bringing in a midfielder if someone was to go. So the focus seems to be they've had to get a sticking plaster at the back. The focus appears to be on these attackers that they want. The rumour is they'll only bring a midfielder in if someone was to go. Now, both Alexis McAllister and Curtis Jones are being linked with exits. Now, if they were to go, you might see a movement come in for another midfielder. And if that was to happen, it needs to be a defensive midfielder, like Yamania says, because they need that physicality. They need that strength. I think Araujo, or I don't know how you pronounce his name.
I won't attempt again.
Apparently he is that type of player. He likes to scrap, he likes to battle, and hopefully that'll help us. We need players like that because, as I keep saying, and as you've alluded to, there's the players in there that are technical and lightweight, and they need to both beef up themselves, but also have the other players in the squad that can protect them and allow them to go and play. Second season in it, see how he gets on. Some players do come good in the second season. Hopefully, he's one of those. Hopefully, he buys into the Areola thing and it works out. I think you'll see him playing further forward this year. I think he was quite deep at times last year. He was almost in a midfield three, which isn't his game. He needs to be playing off the front man. And hopefully that'll help us get the best out of Isak as well if he's further forward. So it remains to be seen. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, nobody thought it was a bad signing at the time. I don't think we should say he's definitely a bad signing now. In a year's time, if he's not improved, then yeah, you can possibly see him being labelled as a flop and being moved on.
Yeah, indeed. Fernie, thank you so much for your comment, mate. Really appreciate that. Please do smash your comments in and get a like on the video as well, guys. Yeah, a couple of things I want to pick up on that. I mean, you're spot on about the physicality of the Premier League because Leeds recruited specifically last summer to deal with the physicality of the Premier League. So all our players were giants and of a certain age. I think that's absolutely bang on the money. And it felt like Liverpool were kind of trending away from that at the kind of wrong time with the type of profile they were bringing in.
They got that wrong, didn't they? And that might not necessarily be on Slot. That could be quite as much on Hughes and Edwards. They've gone down the other way. Now they've predicted that wrong and they've got it wrong. And now they need to try and rectify that. Well,
it's fascinating because a lot of Leeds fans are clamouring for a number 10, like a kind of, tricky kind of, your classic, but physically, do those players in the Premier League thrive anymore? I'm not so sure. So it's really, really interesting to see. A couple of things I want to pick up with you as well. Before I ask about Isaac, Curtis Jones, what's going on with him? There seems to be like a little bit of discontent in the fan base with him, maybe his attitude. And I know there was an issue with the captaincy thing that happened and all that. Are we expecting him to kind of move away then, do you think, Gaz?
Like I say, him and McAllister are both being linked with exits. I think one of them would have to go for a midfielder to come in. Now, Curtis Jones was a Jurgen Klopp favourite. Jurgen Klopp loved him, saw him coming through the academy and said, it spoke about him. Obviously, like they're not at the same level as a player. We know that he's not a Phil Foden, but he spoke about him in the way that Guardiola spoke about Phil Foden in keeping him in the squad and bringing a Scouser into the team. And he was the next one off the list of those after obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now they've had a problem at Liverpool of players running down the contracts and leaving on a free. We spoke about that previously. Curtis Jones is going into the last 12 months of his contract now. This is his last season. Liverpool are trying to move towards a system where we're not going to let you leave on a free anymore. I get the impression that they've been stung by that too many times, and therefore the rumor is it's basically sign a contract or be sold kind of thing with him. And Inter Milan are very, very, very keen on him. They've made 2 bids for him previously that have both been turned down because they've not met Liverpool's valuation. They're offering like 30, and I think Liverpool want 40. Now that could be he's a good player, but he's in the last year of his contract. So maybe there's a little bit of a negotiation to go on there. He's also someone that fell out massively and was, well, I say massively. You never know the ins and outs, and they never come out and say it publicly. But fans know, and reading between the lines, he was not happy with Slot at all. He was not happy. Him and McAllister were two who were quite, probably as outspoken as they could have been about the discontent that was happening under Slot. So whether that changes now with Areola, maybe he thinks, I'll stay, I'll sign on, I'll stay now Slot's gone. The feeling I have reading between the lines is that after he's falling out with Slot, I think he's mentally checked out a little bit. And I think he's got his eyes set, and he's obviously been approached by Inter Milan, and maybe he's mentally checked out, and he's got his eyes set on that move. And I think that move will probably happen if Inter Milan and Liverpool can reach some kind of an agreement. Like I said, they're apart on valuation at the moment, but I see him going, which is a shame because I like the lad, and I think it's important to have a local lad in the team. It's something that Liverpool have always tried to do, and I think if he goes, I think that I'm struggling to think of one that would sort of step in and be that local lad. So. Yeah.
No, I mean, as Fernie says here, Gaz, no Scousers in the side if Curtis leaves. Thoughts on that? Would you like to see a Scouser in your team? The thing is, I mean, they have to be good enough, first and foremost, but I mean, is that a little bit of an issue? I mean, I always think, with the top teams, even with Leeds itself, it's like you hear about how good the academies are, how good the coaching is, the standards are through the roof, the best coaching available, the facilities, and yet it seems so hard for those lads to get a chance, or they're not good enough. It's a strange one, but I mean, because obviously Gerrard and Carragher, and you've had player after player, of that area that have been in the team. I mean, is it something to be concerned with?
I think it is. I think it is a little bit. I think it's important to every club, not just to Liverpool, to have a local lad doing well. I think it's part of your identity. You look at the young lads that are coming into that side at the moment. You're talking about Rio and Gamoa. Well, he's a young lad. He's only 17, but he's come up from down south. Liverpool have nicked him off Chelsea. He's not a Scouser. Connor Bradley, obviously another youngish player, come through the Liverpool academy. He has come through the Liverpool academy, but he's Irish. So he's been there a long, long time. He's been there since he was a kid, and he's obviously got his injury problems, so we don't know how much he's going to feature. I think it is important there. And also you've got the element as well, like a big problem that I've not mentioned yet at Liverpool is a lot of the senior players, a lot of that leadership group that you talk about have moved on. And there's been a heck of a lot of churn and a heck of a lot of players replaced and moving on. And I struggle now when I'm looking around that squad to see too many leaders in that squad. Now, Salah was obviously one of them, but now he's gone. You're probably looking at Alisson and Van Dijk. Obviously, Robertson's gone. Robertson will be a huge miss. Robertson was a massive part of that leadership group. Another player who I love to bits. And now you're probably looking at Alisson and Van Dijk and thinking, who are the leaders other than those two? Yeah. Who are the senior pros in that squad who you would trust to sort of, I don't know, kick a few backsides, keep everybody united, keep morale up. I struggle, to be honest, mate. I don't see, and you might say maybe Alexis McAllister, but he's talking about possibly leaving. So he was another one that wasn't happy with Slot. So that's a worry for me. The senior pros, not just the Scouser thing, but the senior leadership group is a worry for me now as well.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff. Gav, I think Liverpool's recruitment last summer went to pot. Top Banana is not holding back, Gaz. Don't think Liverpool will have a good season and think they've got the wrong manager. Oh, the wrong manager. Well, we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the problem I have with him is we've talked about him previously, didn't we? It's that 2 games a week thing. It's that you've got the big step up from Bournemouth. You've got the step up into needing to play 2 games a week, which is difficult at the intensity that he wants his teams to play at. And you've also got the one positive of Slot, or one of the big positives of Slot, was he wasn't a carbon copy of Jurgen Klopp. You're never going to have another Jurgen Klopp. It's like Bielsa at Leeds. You're never going to have another one. They're one-off. These guys are special, and you're not going to have another. So to kind of go to it will help him that's the style of play that Liverpool like, but does it mean that he's going to be compared more to Jurgen Klopp because he plays the same style? I don't know. It's difficult. But we'll see how he goes. Like I said, we can just see how he goes. I have my concerns. He's talking well. His style of play will resonate well with the Liverpool fans, but there are concerns about, like I said, that intensity, that 2 game a week, the step up, and perhaps him being compared too much to Klopp.
Yeah, indeed. Just want to pick up on this one, answer this one. Ian, good to hear from you, mate. Hope you're well. Will Harry Gray make it at the top level, Brown? It's super interesting when we're talking about young players that are making it. It seems at Leeds, if your surname's Gray, you've got a good chance. I don't know if anybody saw it, but he got punched by a player in a friendly the other day. Which was pretty nasty. Yeah, there's a clip going around. I think Harry Gray's having a tug at the player's shirt, and then he turns around and belts him in the stomach. So it's like, welcome to men's football, Harry. Will he make it to the top level? I hope so. I think we desperately need some players to come through, if not just for the quotas and that. There's a lot of hope with Harry Gray. Apparently, he's got a higher ceiling than Archie Gray. That's always been the thing that's been touted around, but we'll have to wait and see. Fingers crossed.
Are they brothers, them two, or are they cousins, Browney?
Yeah, brothers. Yeah, brothers. Apparently there's even more like Gray kids in the academy as well that are even lower down. So God.
And he was on loan at Rotherham last year, wasn't he? Is it Sheffield Wednesday that he's gone to this time?
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday this time. I think he's 17 still, but I think he turns 18 through the season potentially. So the hope is he can get a bit of experience, things like that the other day where he's getting cracked. Hopefully that kind of adds experience. You just don't want... The problem is, I don't know how you feel about this, guys. I think sometimes, obviously, the best example is like someone like Harry Kane. He had lower level loan spells and then obviously developed into a world-class talent. I do feel sometimes players can get a little bit lost on loan. I don't know if you've had young players, they keep getting loaned out, and then before you know it, they kind of never are able to make that step back in. It's it's a funny one. So we'll have to wait and see with him.
Yeah, there's a couple, obviously. Bradford got a couple of loanees out of Newcastle last year, Harrison Ashby and Joe White, and it felt a little bit like them, like they're 23, 24 years old, and they're still going out on loan. Now, I think someone like Harry Gray, if the expectations or his talent are as high as we sort of think they could be, then hopefully he'll avoid that. I mean, I saw him, like I say, it was Rotherham when they came to Valley Parade, and he was their only threat, really. And the one thing I would say is he did get sort of, the way Rotherham played, they were obviously battling against relegation at the time, and they did end up going down. And it probably didn't suit him because they wanted to turn the game into a scrap, and that's not what a young lad who plays in that position wants the game to be. But he did, when it became a scrap, obviously Rotherham wanted it to be a scrap. When City started sort of scrapping a bit back and kicking a little bit, the player, he kept going. And I think that's all you can do as a young player, and that's a good attitude to have. So see how he gets on at Sheffield Wednesday, where obviously the expectation will be a lot higher than it was at Rotherham for him.
Yeah, fascinating one. Super interesting to see where he ends up. Phil makes a really good point. There used to be chances for the youth to play towards the end of the season, but with millions at stake for every position, that time is gone. I think this is it. I mean, it's, you look at teams coming into Premier League, the promoted teams, it's like, you're trying to buy the established ones that have been there, done it, got the T-shirt, because to put your faith in, unknown quantities and that kind of thing, it's almost too risky. It's almost like why Liverpool are going after Barcola, because it's like we need an absolute dead cert in that position, because it's so much pressure. And it's like Leeds with the goalkeeper. I mean, we kind of and ahed with the goalkeeper last year, and it's that saying of, buy cheap, buy twice. So we ended up kind of going through keepers. We've had to pay 40 million now for James Trafford. Hopefully that solves that position going forward for the foreseeable, until maybe, he moves on and we get a big fee, or hopefully he stays with us and we can grow with him. But there's just so much pressure in the guys. Like, with signings, young players, everything has to be spot on in the Premier League.
You even wonder, like, he's spot on saying it used to happen years ago, but even then, surely, positions certainly went down to the end of the season. I mean, you look at Liverpool didn't qualify for the Champions League till the last day of the season. But the relegation battle was still going on until the last game of the season. Now, I know the money involved probably wasn't as much back then as it is now. But he's spot on. They did play the kids towards the end of the season, and you don't see that now. And it can only be down to that change in the finances that's happened in football at the top level. But
interesting one here from Ian as well. Reserve team football was ideal, sorely missed, and that's the thing, isn't it? Reserve team, it felt a bit more, rather than just your under 21s or your under 18s. It felt a little bit more like, I don't know, closer to the real thing.
Yeah, I don't know how it works now. Like, Leeds will be the same. You've got these big squads. So if you're not involved on a match day in the 18 or whatever on a match day, and you're maybe not involved for 2 or 3 weeks, can these players, can the senior pros that aren't involved, can they go and play in the under 21s?
I've seen it. Yeah, I remember. The last time I can remember that, I'm sure of it, maybe a couple of years ago, when we had like Bamford coming back from a long-term injury.
Yeah.
I remember him playing in one, and a couple others that have, senior pros, have dropped in just for fitness and minutes in the legs. I'm sure they have, but it feels far less than what it used to be. Yeah. Where with the reserve games, it was like, you had that next level of play. Like you say, it might be someone who's on the bench every week. It's like Nonto. I mean, Nonto's a great example. Nonto don't get many minutes for Leeds. He's too good and too kind of established to put in the under-21s.
Yeah.
But then there's not that middle ground. Whereas reserve football, he probably could have gone and he could probably go and do 60 minutes in a reserve game on a Wednesday and do the bench on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of bridge. But when you don't have that, and it's kind of defined by under 21s, I don't know. It seems maybe it's a little bit trickier on that front.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. And you would imagine with it being an under-21 thing, there might be maybe, unless you're agreeing it with the league or the opposition side, there's probably a limit on how many overage players you can play. Some clubs are signing these over.
Got Banana in there.
Good lad.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that. That's good to know. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So it does cap things. Getting back then onto Liverpool and Leeds. I mean, I do want to talk to you about Isaac in a little bit more depth as well. Gaz, funny one for me. I mean, you kind of chased him last year. It went right to the wire. Comes into the team. Obviously, it's not a settled kind of situation. Everything going on with Slot, and he gets a horrible injury. Puts him out for the season. From what you've seen, is he quite the same player post-injury, or what do you expect? He's an unbelievable footballer when he's at his best, but will we see that again, do you think?
I think Liverpool fans have been quietly encouraged by what they saw of him in the World Cup and what they've seen of him in pre-season. He really did struggle last year. We've got to remember, and he had that injury, as you say. Before that, he basically hadn't had a pre-season at Newcastle, so he'd been training away from the group. So, mate, the dopamine hit when he signed was unbelievable. It was just like, I think as well, you have the thing that's something else that Slot was criticised for. When Isak did get himself fit and did get back into the side, he struggled to get the best out of him. You'd have Liverpool fans tweeting during games, counting how many times he'd touched the ball, because they just weren't getting the ball to him at all. Now, players like that, you've got to service them, haven't you? And that's why I'm saying hopefully pushing Wirtz a little bit further forward, the more attacking mentality of the team under Iraola will hopefully help him. I still give him he's still got plenty of time. Obviously, he's proven in the Premier League. Hopefully this year, like I said, we're encouraged by what we saw of him in the World Cup and what we've seen of him in pre-season. He scored a couple of goals in pre-season, scored a couple of goals at the World Cup. He looked quite good at the World Cup. Excuse me, I thought, for Sweden. So hopefully there's no long-term damage there. The problem mainly was that he didn't have a pre-season and then he had that injury and he was still working his way back from injury in the last sort of 4 or 5 months of the season. The problem that they've got as well is that I'm not sure, like I said before, how much he'll suit that style of play. I don't know. It remains to be seen. He obviously has had his muscle injury problems before, and he's going to have to play a lot unless Liverpool bring a player in. Maybe it is a Barcola or an Mbaye, someone that can rotate with him down the middle. Liverpool have now got Hugo Ekitike out until at least the new year because his Achilles is gone. So you've gone from having 2 world-class strikers almost when you signed them, and then you've only ever had one available at once because Isak was not fit, and then when he got himself fit, Ekitike got injured, and now Ekitike is going to be injured. So it does feel like they perhaps need somebody who can rotate in that centre forward position to stop Isak getting injured again, particularly early on as he builds his fitness up. So it's a problem. I just want a day where I'd like a time when they're both fit at the same time, because if you can rotate those two, you're on a totally different level. Ekitike did really, really well last season. He carried the team burden with Isak being injured. So the hope is that when Ekitike comes back, he's the same player again that he was last season. He's got another horrible injury. It's his Achilles injury. We know how bad Achilles injuries can be and how they can affect players returning. So fingers crossed he gets back up to the level that he was at before, and we can finally see a rotation between those two, or even perhaps at times see them together in games.
Yeah, horrible, wasn't it? Because he was definitely a signing that seemed to kind of hit the ground running there. Did you watch the Leeds Liverpool friendly, Gaz, or did you see highlights? Or
just the highlights, mate? Yeah, it was in America, wasn't it? So it was quite late at night. So I didn't watch it. I don't have access to LFC TV. It was on LFC TV, so I didn't watch it. But I've seen the highlights, seen the goals. Obviously, spoke to you and Jay, who were obviously watching the game, so I know a little bit about it. But
yeah. When you look at Leeds, then from an outside perspective, Gaz, where do you kind of what's your feeling on kind of Leeds at the minute, the business they've done, or how do you think they'll get on this season?
I think first of all, you've got to be really, really pleased with how last season went, and all that criticism that was coming for Farke, and people almost wanted, well, they did, didn't they? Some wanted him out even before the season started, despite the fact that he just got you promoted, and he's proved a lot of people wrong. And obviously, we talk about that Man City game was a big turning point where he changed the formation for you, didn't he? And it really, really works. And then from that point onwards, you never really looked back, and I think you did really, really well. The challenge now is to build on that, and I think the signings that you've made are a good start. I've got a little worry with Bradford to a certain extent that are we going to be are we being found out a little bit, and maybe that might be a little bit of a worry with Leeds. But bring the right players in. There's ways around that. I think the lads you've signed at centre half and obviously Trafford are two fantastic signings for a club like Leeds. They're a bit of an eyebrow raiser for a club like Leeds to sign those two players. The way you and Browney, you and Jay talk is you need something up at the top end of the pitch as well. Obviously, the goalkeeper was a big issue for you, and that looks like you've rectified that. The other big issue for you is obviously the top end. So, I mean, I don't know. Are you being linked with strikers, Browney? Is it something that you can see happening before the window closes? Because I think if you get that done, then you've got all the reason to be optimistic.
Do you know, it's interesting, Gaz, because with the big one, the marquee kind of signing and forward attacking is Harry Wilson. Now, what's interesting, Gaz, is if you look at how much Leeds have spent on their attack since getting promoted, we've only paid a fee for Noah Okafor, which were about 15 million, because Calvert-Lewin were on a free and Nemecha was on a free, which is pretty bonkers. And for me, it feels like we're definitely make the base, make the defence as solid as possible, get the right midfielders in, and it's almost like we'll nick a goal, or Calvert-Lewin will scramble a goal in, or something like that. And it's almost a feeling of we've got just about enough in attack, rather than it being the strongest part of the pitch. I would still say it's the weakest part of our squad is the attack. Now, I think the starting 11 is strong. I feel the starting 11 in terms of league places this season, with Trafford, Wilson and Tarek coming in, I think our kind of position is maybe like 14th to maybe even 8th. The starting 11. I think the problem you get is when you start to dip below that. I think that's when you kind of get your issues, because it's like if Calvert-Lewin's not playing, big problems. Metra's great. He'll always get you a goal, it seems, but he's just not Calvert-Lewin. Joe Peru, certainly not Calvert-Lewin. On the wings, Dan James is bang average at Premier League level. Not good enough for me. Willing Onto in and out, never really seems to grab the ball by the horns. And then you're looking at Okafor's got a really kind of hit and miss. He misses a lot of games, can only do 60 minutes when he's playing, that kind of thing. So the attack seems really kind of the area. And if you're looking for 70th minute in games, who we're going to bring on, who can we get on that's of enough quality to see out a game? We did suffer with that. I mean, I remember Everton away. We battered Everton for the first half, but the second half we just we lost control, and you could just see we were just going further and further back, and eventually we concede. In terms of who we're linked with, I mean, Pajau's the big one, but we had that all summer. I mean, Igor Pajau plays for Marseille. Oh my God. I mean, Gaz, it went on all summer. And then last minute, it was like, I'm joining Marseille. And you thought, thanks a lot for that. We've just chased you for, 3 months and then you're buggering off. So
it's the opposite of that dopamine hit, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's the worst. Yeah. It's the worst. When you're hunting and then it all goes wrong. So yeah, there's work to be done. I don't know how much money's left in the bank, really. I mean, Trafford's an eye-watering fee for a club like us, 40 million. We know the current situation with SCR and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be really difficult to see where we're going from there. Gaz, in terms of kind of the wider Premier League at the minute, what's your kind of take on favourites for winning it? Do you expect Arsenal to retain it, or do you think there might be a surprise? Can Man City come back into it, do you think?
Yeah, and just little bit on what you said about Leeds there, mate, before I go into that. But I think I think what you said there about the first team, I think there's a lot of clubs will say that. I spoke about it with Liverpool and Iraola saying they can only play for 30 minutes and then they're knackered, and when I'm bringing their subs on, they're not up to the standard. So I think that the two teams we've talked about today, you're going to talk about that with most teams. And the only thing is, like with the forwards, do you think it's a case of you're on about the money, you don't know how much money's there? Do you think they might try and move someone out that would give them then a bit of money to spend on someone else? When you talked about Peru or Nonto, do you think they could go and then use that money to bring in someone that can be a bit of a game changer for you?
Ideally, that would be the dream. The dream is Gelart, Peru, Nonto. You get money for them. You know, if you can get maybe 20, 25 million for all those guys combined, absolutely. You can just, because we know with amortization and all this financial stuff, you can put it straight back in. And that's ideally what we're looking for. It's a weird old thing as a transfer. Transfer market in general, sometimes things move really quickly, and then other times it's such a drag, isn't it? We'll be on Twitter or X, and you're kind of looking for updates, and you can drive yourself mad though, can't you? Because you kind of, you think a deal's getting closer, and then it just drags on and on and on. So I hope we can. I think we've got enough because of what's come up from the Championship to stay safe. It's just going to be a question of how much can we push on, really, with what we've got.
I'd go with that, mate. I think you're right. I don't think you've anything to worry about with the teams that have come up. I really don't. I saw Gelder, he's being linked with Hull, isn't he? So that might be one that moves out for you. But yeah, if to go back to your original point, your question about the Premier League, I think, like I say, look at the bottom. I'm struggling to see them coming up doing anything spectacular, to be honest with you. I don't see. I mean, we talked a lot, haven't we, in the past about the teams coming up going straight back down, but it didn't happen last year. Obviously, West Ham went. I think Forest will do well under Glasner. I think Glasner's a good manager. I think he's one that he's now used to the Premier League. The problem with them will be how he gets on with Marinakis, because we know obviously what a crazy guy he is. He's obviously, I think he's shot himself in the foot more than once with them. When you look at Leeds, I think you're right. I think 14th, 12th, 10th. You can be aiming for that. I mean, look at what Bournemouth and Brentford have done in the past. Yeah. Fulham will be an interesting one, because obviously Marco Silva's now gone. How are they going to go under Arbeloa? Don't know a lot about Arbeloa. I know they've brought a couple of players in from Real Madrid, but Marco Silva, again, similar to Glasner, proven in the Premier League, done a steady job. I don't like making predictions, as you know, and the one prediction I did make last year was that Brentford had really struggled, and look how well they did. So, I don't think anyone saw that. So it is so difficult to predict on how these teams are going to go. I do think, like I said, the teams that have come up, I don't see them being as much of a threat as possibly the teams that came up last year were. When you're talking about up at the top end, for a team, for Liverpool, for example, the absolute bare minimum now is to qualify for the Champions League. You miss out on that, your financial hit that you take is massive, and especially given the sort of sell to buy and the net spend thing that FSG tend to go with, barring last year, it's so huge. And it became a big worry last year that they weren't even going to get top. They were lucky that 5th place got Champions League, because obviously of the fair play thing, and especially in Europe, we got that extra place. Liverpool got it. I think at the top end, I think it's Arsenal's to lose. I think with Pep gone, Man City aren't going to be. I don't see them. I mean, Maresca's a good manager, but he's not a Pep, is he? And I don't see him. I think there'll be a bit of an adjustment there with them. So I think Arsenal have got to be the favourites again, sadly, because I cannot do with Arsenal fans, and I cannot do with Arteta. I think they're absolutely horrible. They're the most arrogant fan base you'll see on social media. It was often a case you just felt like saying to them, until they won it last year, just go and win something before you start mouthing off, because they haven't won anything for goodness knows how long, and they were having themselves down as the best team in Europe, some of them, and I just couldn't buy it. And the way they play, well, I don't like it at all, but I do think it's theirs to lose, because obviously Liverpool, we don't know what they're going to be like under Iraola. We're not sure what Man City will be like under Maresca. Carrick at United, how's that going to go? He did well last year. Can he go into a new season and can he continue that? remains as a question mark there. He did really well to him, and me and you aren't going to like. I don't like that fact, but he did. He did really, really well, and you can't take that away from him. So, see how they go. Chelsea under Xabi Alonso again. How are they going to go? Because he does like that three at the back. Will he change that coming to the Premier League? Because there's only really Glasner who's managed to get it to work in the Premier League. They've signed a lot of players again. The churn there is absolutely massive, isn't it? We talk about the number of players they sign, the number of players they send out on loan. I don't know, mate. Top end other than Arsenal, I think it's difficult to call, and the bottom end, I do think the three that come up will struggle. That are coming up will struggle, and Leeds, like you said, mate, I think you're right. I think you can be aiming for mid-table. There's no reason why not. If you can continue what happened towards the back end of last season, like from that, we talked about that turning point against Man City. The signings you've made are good. I think you've every reason to believe you can be pushing for mid-table, definitely.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. And God, it's interesting, fascinating just hearing you talk about Arsenal as well, because I mean, I struggle to think of a team that's won the Premier League being kind of as unlikable or unremarkable as them. The style of football, the corners, the whole thing is just. I mean, it's just not great at all, is it? It's kind of, if you judge a league by its champions. And look, I respect it because they found a way to win. Arteta found a way to get that Arsenal team from kind of mediocrity to winning the Premier League, and I respect it on that level. But I'd like to say I don't like it, and if you give me the choice, right, do you want to watch an Arsenal game or a Liverpool game or whoever, I would always pick the other game 9 times out of 10 because it's just not great.
I'm with you, mate. So I totally agree.
Yeah. Top Banana says Arsenal aren't going to get as many set-piece goals this season and the defence won't be as good, in my opinion.
That is a really interesting point because we saw in the World Cup, didn't we, a few of the pundits, I can't remember, was one of the pundits supposedly said when a goal was disallowed from a set-piece that if that had been in the Premier League, if those rules had been applied, Arsenal wouldn't have won the league. And I think that's fair. Now, there's twofold for me with Arsenal. It's that style of play. And then it's just the arrogance from Arteta and the fan base. I cannot do with it at all. I think they've got ideas massively above the station. They probably are the third or fourth biggest team in the country. But they're so far behind your United and your Liverpool in terms of how big they are as institutions. It's unbelievable. And I don't think the attitude from the Arsenal fans endears them to people. And that comes from the manager because Arteta's really dislikable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Comment here, I know you popped it up before, Raymond. Hi, Browney. How are you? Amar Dedic should sign for Newcastle United right now, and Amar Dedic make a move to Newcastle right now. Yes, from Ray. Ray, you're the new Fabrizio, mate. Go for it. Just some other points to pick up as well. Gav, we don't seem to be good sellers. He's talking about Leeds United here. No, that's true. We do. Do you know the word that sends shivers down my spine, Gaz, is loan with an option.
Oh.
If I have to watch Leeds United do one more deal that's loan with an option that's never going to get taken up, honestly, it drives me mad.
Who was the one that you were on about? The lad who used to be at Man City. He's been at Harrison. He was one of them, wasn't he? You had him out on loan. Was it Everton he went out for 2 years or something?
Yeah, 2 years at Everton. Out last year. We finally managed to get rid of him. Yeah, Lucas Perry, the goalkeeper, he's going to go out on a loan to Torino. And they're on about now Seb Bornau, who I don't think we should be letting go, potentially being a loan to an option.
Another loan. Bloody hell.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is going on? What's the point? Top Banana, those rules in the Premier League this season. So I don't know if there's going to be a change then. Maybe things will be watched more at set pieces or whatnot. I mean, Arsenal were basically allowed to do whatever they wanted on set pieces. It was insane.
The one that they got away with, that you absolutely bang on, and you used to see it week in, week out. Some of the wrestling that they got away with was unbelievable. And then there was that one at West Ham, the equaliser that West Ham got late in the season against Arsenal, and it got disallowed. And when you watch it back, it was a foul. It was a foul. But what Declan Rice was doing as well before that foul happened was absolutely staggering. And if you're going to punish that, then you should be punishing the Rice one that was going on earlier, and then it would have been a penalty to West Ham. Let's not go down. It's a rabbit hole in it, Browney. It is with me anyway. But I'm glad that Top Banana said that, because if those rules are coming in, hopefully it'll stop that happening a little bit.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to have contextually in kind of their own expectations. Who's going to have the better season, Leeds or Liverpool? What do you think?
It depends how Iraola goes, but me being a pessimist, I'd probably say Leeds because we talked about the pros and the cons of Iraola, and I'm always prepared for the worst. So if I'm preparing for the cons to be more, and I don't see a negative with Leeds at the moment, I really don't, especially if you can get that forward player in. I don't see why. I mean, you said there, didn't you, like a good season for Leeds, what? Somewhere around mid-table, good season?
Yeah.
I think you can get that. Whereas a good season for Liverpool is to challenge for the title, and I don't see that happening. I think they've got to be trying to make sure they get top 4 or 5 and get Champions League, which is what would be a standard season, what needs to be bare minimum for Liverpool, and I can see that happening. Whereas, like I said, Leeds, I can see them having that good season and getting mid-table.
Yeah, no, I've got to say, because I'm similar to yourself, guys, I'm like a pessimist kind of first when it comes to like Leeds and stuff. Just 30 years of disappointment and heartbreak kind of does that to you. But I'm at this moment, I would say this is the most stable, calm, and I'd almost describe the style of play under Farke as well. It is like it's like a really steady, stable kind of style of play and a feel at the club at the minute. And I'm all for it after kind of years of chaos and underperformance. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Has he surprised you, Farke, Browney? Because I know we spoke about obviously fans wanting him out, and you know, it was basically like they'd already made their mind up, hadn't they, before you hit the Premier League, and then he's changed that style of play. He's got you playing, and I just hope. And we talked about a little bit there with Arteta that if things don't go right straight away, same with Rio at Liverpool, if things don't go right straight away at the start of the season, I hope that negativity don't come back. I hope they give him a chance because Arsenal gave Arteta a chance. United gave Fergie a chance all those years ago. Give him a chance to turn it around first before you press the panic button. And now I think for Leeds, Farke should have a lot of credit in the bank. And I think if he loses 2 or 3 games at the start of the season, give him a chance to turn it around. He's got that credit now.
I 100% agree. And me and Jay have banged the drum for so long. He's criminally underappreciated. There's a large section of the fan base that back him to the hilt, love him, and in the stadium it's very positive. But my God, you're absolutely right. If we lose the first game of the season, there'll be fans going, "Yeah, it's been found out." And what I think is, people talk about that Man City game at half-time, you know, it all changed from there. Yeah. But I think Farke's kind of had to reinvent a little bit at Leeds every season he's been here. First season, it was an absolute shambles when we got relegated. And he had to pull the club together, which he did. And we narrowly missed out, losing the playoff final, which can happen. Second season, he loses star players, your star attacking players. I think he lost something like 50 goal contributions or something. Had to reinvent us again. The football was brilliant that second season. I loved it. I thought we were excellent. Wins the league. That's his 3rd championship title, by the way. Last season, you got the win at Old Trafford. We'd not won there since 1981. Got to a semi-final of an FA Cup. I thought it was a massive overachievement. I really did. I mean, the interesting, I mean, top banana in Farke we trust, but Gav, I think Farke's realised his stubbornness was costing him. See, I don't know, because the thing with managers, they have to back themselves. They have to back themselves, because if they doubt themselves, the players will doubt them. So there is a certain stubbornness that has to be there. But I think he's got so much credit in the bank, Gaz. I really do.
And that word, stubbornness, my mate Jason McEwen, obviously friend of our podcast, editor of Whitford Post, he once said to me, if I can't remember which City manager it was getting described as stubborn, and he said to me, I've never had one City manager who hasn't been described as stubborn. All managers get described as stubborn, and it probably is accurate to a certain extent, but for the reason that you just said there, mate, that's why they have to be. I think sometimes.
It's bang on, absolutely. Just quickly before we finish up, Gaz, just to get your take on this. Phil says, got to remember that the top 6 have their own set of rules, financial and football. What's your, as a kind of Liverpool supporter, I mean, what do you make of all that kind of, because obviously like Aston Villa and Newcastle, they're not allowed to spend what they want. They're looking at Liverpool, etc., spending over 100 million on signings and thinking what's going on. But what do you think of that whole thing?
You see, it's difficult from the Liverpool perspective because barring last summer, Liverpool have never really gone and spent a lot more than they've recouped. It's always been a very much, not a sell to buy, but spend within your means. Apart from last summer, we know what they did last summer. I think that it's not PSR anymore, whatever it's called now. I think
Yeah.
I think it's got a place, and I think it's there for the right reasons. It's there to protect clubs. It's also there from an outsider point of view. Obviously, I get the frustration from your Newcastle and your Villa fans, but I don't think it's right that you can be in a lottery where anybody can come in and buy a club and suddenly transform it into being the biggest club in the world, or the biggest, like what happened with Man City. I don't think that's fair. I think that success and the right to spend money has to be earned, and you've got to earn that money to a certain extent. But before, on the flip side of that, these rules need tweaking because they're obviously far too strict. They're obviously stopping competitivity. Is that a word? Competitiveness. They're stopping that. So I think they've got a place, and I think that they're there for the right reasons. And I wouldn't like to see them scrapped completely because I think, like I said, they needed to stop this Man City thing happening and teams just being transformed by some guy who just like it could happen with Liverpool. It could happen with Liverpool with Bezos. They talk about Bezos coming in. If he gets hold of the club, he could transform them just by chucking loads. And I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't be happy with that. I think you've got to earn it. But they need changing because they're preventing competitivity to a certain extent, and it needs looking at. And that's my opinion. It needs, should we say, changing rather than scrapping completely. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I think that's really reasonable take. And I think, I've got to say, because Spurs is the one that a lot of people go, well, they haven't won the league since the 60s. They finished 17th twice. How can they spend all this money? But I did see it was on a feed on X, and it was, but Spurs finished in the top 6, something like 15 out of the last 20 years or something.
Really?
So so they've put themselves into that top 6. They've built a new stadium, and they haven't had a sugar daddy. They've kind of built and built and built over, a couple decades to now be in a position where they can throw their financial weight around. And I think that does attest to your idea of, look, you shouldn't be like, it can't just be someone coming in and, oh, we do this, we do that, and it's all sorted. It's, wave the magic wand. It feels like, Spurs have built it up in a way.
It could happen. You could happen to see, like, I don't know, someone down in Bradford's division. If Sheikh Mansour decides to buy it, can turn him into Man City. I don't think that's right. But I totally get the frustration that it is preventing competitivity, and I think there's two sides to it, mate. Like I said, I think it needs changing, but not scrapping.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interested to see what happens going forward. Great stuff. Really good stuff. Really enjoyed that, Gaz. Thank you to everyone who got involved and got the comments in. If you've not done already, please do smash a like on the video. Get subscribed to the channel. If you're watching this again later as well, get your comments in. Let us know what you thought about what we discussed today. Be absolutely fascinated to see. Please keep an eye out on the channel. Lots of content going out through the week as well. Jay, someone did mention it earlier about Jay being on holiday. Yes, Joe. Jay is living the life in Tenerife.
He's away again, this lad. He were away not so long ago, no.
I don't know what is going on with this guy. Who's paying for all this? What's happening? But yeah, Jay will be back on. I'm hoping to do something with Jay Thursday morning for a big Leeds update. So please do keep an eye on that, plus all the usual stuff going out on the channel. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Gaz. Gaz, thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Welcome, mate. Nice to talk about something different than City.
Yeah.
Should have hid my background though, shouldn't I?
I can edit it later. I'll do a bit of photoshopping later, mate. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for watching. Take care. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.